Another exciting edition of Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. On this edition of the program, Nigeria to host the 2031 African Games. And coming in from the world of tennis, female finalists emerged at the Australian Open. English teams shine through at the Europa League Games. Details of these and many more will be yours when we do return from a break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network, and I have Mike with me this hour.
Yeah, good morning, and morning to have viewers out there.
And let's get started straight away from the local scene, where Nigeria has indicated interest to host the 2031 African Games following a meeting between the National Sports Commission and, of course, the African Union Commissioner Minata Samara, who is in charge of the African Games. This is following the conclusion of the Inter-Regional African meeting held in Banjul, Gambia. Can Nigeria pull this one through?
I am very doubtful because if you take a look at the alien infrastructures that we have on ground, I think the best that the National Sport Commission should start thinking about right now is to ensure that at least we bring back or give back life to the dying sporting infrastructure that we have across the nation. From now to 2031, how far can they go? That is a big question. So for me, instead of paying much priority or attention into hosting some of the major events, I think we should pay more attention to trying to put back the alien infrastructures that we have on ground before we start thinking about hosting any major tournament. So for me, I think it would be a misplacement of priority for us to start bidding to host for any major event or any major sporting tournament, although it has not been officially, made known that we bidded to host it. It's just a side talk and, an intent from the National Sport Commission. But for me, I think we should pay more attention into, trying to build the sporting infrastructure that we have on ground, other than trying to host any major event for now.
No formal bid has been made, but the National Sports Commission Chairman Diko has indicated interest for this game. Let's hope, but like you mentioned there, that of infrastructure here in Nigeria is quite an issue. The last time Nigeria hosted a major sporting event was like 22 years ago, and since then we've not had any other formal, major meet held here in Nigeria. 22 years. That's quite a long time, Mike. Do you think with the nearly 94 billion or 95 billion naira budgeted for sports this year, with infrastructure having a quantum of that amount, Nigeria could be ready to hosting an event in at least 3 or 5 years from now?
I think hosting a major event, a sporting event, especially in the next 3 or 2 years now, I think for me should be outside of the equation. Like I mentioned earlier, I think our major aim and purpose right now is to ensure that we bring back or give life back to the sporting infrastructure that we have. So I think maybe in the next 5 years or 6 years, then we can take a total perusals of what we have on ground, talking about the infrastructure. If it is good enough, then we can start bidding to host any major event. So we shouldn't take, because of the fact that it's been very long that we hosted any sporting event, and just rush to host any sporting event, whereas we don't have the necessary tools and the facilities on ground to do so. So I'm thinking maybe in the next 5-6 years, then we can be able to stand in a very better position to assess and judge if actually what we have on ground is enough for us to host any major event.
Talk about hosting events, Nigeria looking forward to 2031 hosting of the African Games. On the local scene here, where sub-regional states put themselves together and looking forward to hosting a major event in the south west of Nigeria in March this year. 6 states of the southwest putting themselves together in conjunction with the National Sports Commission in hosting what they call the Admiral Bola Tinubu Games.
Yeah, I think for me it's a very nice idea, a very lofty one. This is what we're talking about, that if some regional states can be able to take this kind of initiative by hosting some major event, I think it's going to help in developing and unearthing even more talent for us. And I think this one will be hosted in Lagos State. The big question is, does Lagos State have the infrastructures on ground to host the rest state there in Lagos? Of course, yes. The last Nuga game that actually took place in Lagos State, and I think they have the needed infrastructures on ground to host the rest of the 5 states over there in Lagos. So for me, I think it is something that other regions as well should also take a cue and start towing that line, because if after the event there is no how you tell me that 6 or even 10 sportsmen and women cannot be discovered in different sporting areas, then if we get to discover 6 or 10 and other regions cannot to do this same, we cannot to discover new talent, there is no way that Nigeria will be going for any major event. Talk about the Commonwealth Games, talk about the Olympic game, that we cannot at least boast of athletes or sportsmen and women that can be able to hold their own in the big stage. So for me, I think it's a very lofty idea.
Still in athletics for you this hour, world record holder in the women's 100 meters hurdles event, Toby Amusa, is already in a bid for her very first race of the season, and this will be coming up in Kingston, Jamaica this weekend. The Queen's Grace Jackson meet will take place, and she's expected to take part in the 60-meter event at the meet in Kingston, Jamaica. Toby Amuso getting into the groove for 2025.
I think it's a nice one. I want to see her this year 2025 to get started in a very positive note, because the last year 2024 wasn't a very good one for her. Then again, having also identified herself with a new coach, the coach that coached the former athlete, talking about Usain Bolt, and his name Glenn Mills. So I want to see the collaboration between Glenn Mills, the former coach of Usain Bolt, and Toby Amusa right now working together. I just want to see what they've been able to do behind the scenes. So I'm very much positive that come this 2025, Toby Lola Amusa should get her groove on in a very positive note.
Toby Amusa may not have done well in 2024, but she still keeps her record of 12.1 seconds in the hurdles event. No one can take that one away from her, at least for now. So we just wish that she can get really into the groove in the year 2025, having not done so well in 2024. An Olympic year, a lot was expected from her, but somehow there was some kind of blip moments for her. We pray that Toby Amusa, under a new coach, Glenn Mills, will do well. Talk about Glenn Mills is taking an athlete like Usain Bolt to stardom. We hope we will take our own Toby Amusa as well to El Dorado. Meanwhile, we now leave athletics and go to cricket. Talking about cricket, Mike, Nigerian female under-19 cricket team, they are popularly called the Junior Female Yellow Greens, remain optimistic about reaching the semi-finals of the 2025 International Cricket Council Under-19 Women T20 World Cup that is taking place in Malaysia after, of course, getting to the top 6 only on Wednesday, courtesy of that performance against New Zealand.
Yeah, I think for me, hope is still very much high on the girls. You know, having come second in their group out there, you know, to make it through to the last Super 6, I think for me, we'll be you know, coming up against some tough opponents, England, the cricket playing nation as well. So I think for me, we should keep hope alive, you know, because the girls, they've done massively. Though their first game, they didn't play their first game because of the rain against Samoa, but defeated another cricket playing nation in New Zealand, then got beaten by South Africa. You know, so there is still this positive within the camp, and even their coach as well is very positive that, you know, they have what it takes to do this very well. So let's just keep our fingers crossed, hoping that the girls is going to get their mojo right this time around. Talking
about the junior female greens, Mike, they have been zoning to what for me looks like a very difficult group. In Group 2, there is England and Ireland. I believe these are cricket playing nations.
Yeah, they are cricket playing nations, but don't also forget that New Zealand as well is also a cricket playing nation, and we were able to stun them. So if we did that against New Zealand, who is a cricket playing nation, in fact they are ranked 14th in the world, so we can do it against England as well and Ireland.
Well, the girls seem to, for me, have met up with their target. They thought of going to the semi-finals, and here they are. And let's hope that they qualify straight out of their group into the semi-finals. Let's look at one of the biggest stories going around the world right now, which is the Australian Open that has entered into the final for the females. Talking about female finalists at this year's Australian Open, Aryna Sabalenka, the world #1 in female tennis. A lot of people have touted her to get there, and now she becomes the very first woman in 26 years to win a successive Australian Open title. Can she make it 3 times on the bounce?
She's on the road to do that, and I think she has what it takes, you know, to do that, to also meet up with the record of Martina Hingis and even other great
She will definitely be the number 5 or 6 player to do 3 times at the Australian Open.
Definitely, she has what it takes. You take a look at her game yesterday against her close friend, talking about Paulo Badoza. I think for me, she's one that is highly favored in this very way, especially when Iga Swiatek has been knocked out, you know, by Madison Keys. I think the onus lies on her, and for me, I think it's just a matter of time or hours, you know, she's going to do the needful, because I believe she has been in a very fantastic form so far this season, having won the Australian Open 2023, 2024, this is 2025, and she's still very much you know, fantastic on the court. I believe that she can do it.
Talking about world #1 in female tennis, Aryna Sabalenka, she can do it 3 times on the bounce, and if you look at her pedigree, in the last 2 years she's won 20 games, you know, at the Australian Open on the bounce, and she could make it 21 in the very final. But one lady that is very determined to stop her is Madison Keys from the United States of America. Madison Keys had been on the low recently, but she seemed to have bounced back straight into the final of this year's Australian Open, and haven't taken out the world #2 in female tennis, Iga Swiatek. A lot of people believe that Madison Keys has what it takes to eliminate the world #1 and become the Australian Open champion for 2025.
Yes, of course, you cannot rule out upset, especially when it gets to this very high stage. You can't rule out any upset, because any player getting to the final, I think you want to show the world what you can do. And for her to get this far, it is not by fluke. I think she has worked her fingers to the bone to get to this apex, getting to the final of the Australian Open when you have other big name players right from the preliminary stage were able to find your way through to the final. It doesn't come easy. So if Aryna Sabalenka underrates Keys, then she's going to do that at her own peril. And I believe that Aryna Sabalenka won't take such chances, you know. So then again, for Keys, defeating world number 2 in Iga Swiatek, I mean, it's a statement of intent that you can't rule out any upset against the world number 1. So anything is very possible in this very game.
Anything is very possible, but one thing that is confirmed so far at this year's Australian Open is that world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka, in the female category, no matter what happens in the final, will remain as world number 1 in female tennis in the year 2025, at least up till the next Grand Slam. And so we congratulate her for maintaining her position as world number 1. But the world number 2 may shift if care is not taken. And we've told you how the world number 2, Iga Swiatek, lost out in the final with the budding stars like Bodosa and of course Madison Keys. Now, do you see Iga Swiatek maintaining her the world number 2 status at the end of the Grand Slam, let's say in the next 48 hours?
I'm seeing a lot of shifts. I'm seeing a lot of shift because you know, it has to do with points accumulation, and I think the point accumulation that she has before is not that different. The margin is not that different from the world number 3. So I'm possibly seeing a shift in the world number 2. But let's see how it goes when the new ranking comes out.
There's been a major shock at the Australian Open as we speak. Novak Djokovic, everybody expected him to hit Grand Slam number 25 and make history as the one with the most Grand Slam in modern tennis. But that would not happen anymore because from the Melbourne court, we've just been informed that in the match that was ongoing between him and Alexander Zverev, Djokovic has now pulled out injured, and so it is Alexander Zverev that has gone straight into the final after taking the very first set, and the man from Serbia could not continue in the second set.
I think it's quite disappointing for Novak Djokovic, who was chasing a 25th Grand Slam record for himself out there. Not a good one. He retired even in the first set, you know, out injured, and he went over to hug and congratulate, you know, his opponent. Quite disappointing for, you know, the man who has a lot of experience. A lot of people had anticipated to see a final between Novak Djokovic and Jannik Sinner, but that one will not see the light of the day because injury has actually blighted and blurred that you know, tall aspiration and vision of so many tennis followers to see the final between this Novak Djokovic and Jannik Sinner. Quite disappointing. Even more disappointing when some section of the fans, you know, had to boo him, you know, and of course his opponent out there, Zverev, actually criticized the fans that booed Novak Djokovic when he retired injured in that very one. I think for me, quite disheartening for Novak Djokovic.
It is Friday afternoon already in Australia, and is expected to heat up more at the Melbourne court because Jannik Sinner, the world number 1 in male tennis, is getting ready to take on Ben Shelton in the other semi-final that will produce a finalist that will take on Alexander Zverev. But first, before we look at the Jannik versus Shelton semi-final, Mike, Alexander Zverev is into his very first Australian Open final. Can he make history by getting his first Grand Slam?
Well, I think that question would be best answered by Zverev. It's about his determination. It's about what he wants. It's about making a history for himself, having not you know, won it. I think it would be a great fun if you get to win this very one. But then he has a very big obstacle awaiting him, you know, between you know, the world number 1, talking about Jannik Sinner, then Ben Shelton, whoever, you know, emerges victorious this afternoon, then get to meet each other. But then I think for him to have come this far, I think it's a statement of intent, and if he dreams very big, I think he can do it. There is nothing impossible in the world of sport. You know, so for me, I think he has what it takes to do that. But can he do that in a big stage against, you know, a player like Yannick Sinner? That is only if Yannick Sinner wins this afternoon, which for me, I think he should win, because the odds are in his favor. So I think everything is possible.
Everything is possible. Yannick Sinner, world number 1, up against Bear Shilton. Bear Shilton looking like that's a flash in the pan, and can he stand the firepower of one man who has won the Olympics, and of course, besides winning several Grand Slams last year, is the world number 1 in male tennis?
I think it's going to be a very daunting task for Ben Shilton, coming up against the world number 1 that have been in form since last year down till now. In fact, last year was his breakout season, talking about Yannick Sinner, and he has continued to ride on despite the obstacles, the challenges, the doping issue saga here and there. Yet he was still able to maintain his cool, maintain his tease, and continue to blaze on. So it's going to be a very long night for Ben Shilton coming up against Yannick Sinner this afternoon. I tell you, the odds, the octopus, the analysis, every angle that you want to look at it, taking a look at experience, statistics as well, in terms of game played, game won and game lost between these two players. I mean, Yannick Sinner has the advantage going into the game this afternoon.
Yannick Sinner has the advantage going to the game later today. But first, Mike, let's look at the ranking. World number 1, ranked number 1, and up against some player ranked number 21 in the world of tennis. 20 places, you know, higher than Ben Shilton. Yannick Sinner, can he, do I say, put bookmakers to wrong?
Sometimes it's not about ranking. We've seen, you know, players that are well ranked, you know, coming up against a lowly ranked player. Even some players that were given wild card, yet they were still humble. So sometimes it's not just about ranking. Just like what you see in football, sometimes a team that is ranked world number 1 in football, you could still see a team that is ranked away from the 100 spots still defeating them. So sometimes I don't want to take a look at ranking as a yardstick or a basis of you know, what we are going to see in a major game, such as a quarter-final, semi-final, or even the final. You can't also forget that even Paulo Badoza in the WTA actually wasn't well ranked, but she was able to stun a world number 2. And even the game against Emma Raducanu as well. I mean, Emma Raducanu was way ranked above her opponent, but then what happened? She was still hosted out in the competition. So for me, I think it's not all about ranking. It's about what you intend to achieve after getting to such a big stage. So I won't take ranking as a major yardstick to actually, you know, pray into the future of the game and say, okay, because you are well ranked than this, you know, you are going to get the victory. It is not done that way.
Ben Shilton and Yannick Sinner, world number 1 up against world number 21, coming up in just a few minutes from now. Let's hope that it will be. I think this is afternoon already in Australia and the morning here in Nigeria, and that match should be concluded before afternoon here in Nigeria. Time for us to take a break. When we return from a break, we'll look at what's happening at the NBA, where there is some top-level basketball ongoing, and in football as well. Enyimba International suffer yet another defeat against Kano Pillars. Details of these, many more, will be yours when we return from the break. Welcome back. It's Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network, and of course we've told you earlier that female finalist has already emerged at the Australian Open, where Aryna Sabalenka will have to contend with yet another budding female player at the Australian Open. Madison Keys from the United States of America have an opportunity of upsetting the world #1. In the male category, we told you that Novak Djokovic has pulled out of the final because in the semi-final fixture, in the semi-final fixture, he retired injured after the first set with a very acrimonious crowd there booing him. Some will say they paid for money. They paid ticket to watch the full game and watch only one half or one set of it, and they are not happy about it. But again, the man from Serbia has been injured and so have to pull out. So Alexander Zverev will be into his very first final at the Australian Open, waiting for the emergence of Ben Shelton or Yannick Sinner, who is the world #1 in tennis. It will be interesting to see world #1 and world #2 take on this final in Australia. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. In the next few seconds, Yannick Sinner and Shelton will be at the centre court in Melbourne. And beyond that, I will tell you how Nigeria has indicated interest at hosting the 2031 African Games. Will this be possible? We'll keep our fingers crossed on it. Now let's go to basketball. And talking about basketball, the biggest is happening in the United States of America, which is the NBA, and we'll bring you some of the results of the matches taking place. It looks like the Orlando team lost their magic at home because the Trailblazers had taken them to the cleaners. Mike, 79 to 101, 79 for the home side Orlando Magic, while Trailblazers from Portland beat them by 101 points.
I think for me it was a quite shocking result because Portland Trailblazers, they have not actually lived up to that their name. I think they have not blazed on so far this season. They have a very poor form going into that very game. In fact, they are seated bottom in the Eastern Conference. They've not well ranked and they have not been very impressive so far this season. So for me it was more like a surprise, but then this is what you get to see in games like this. But then I think if they can build on from here, it's going to be a great one.
Raptors from Toronto were in excellent form, 122 against 117 scored by the Hawks from Atlanta.
Another shocking result because Atlanta Hawks, I think they've been doing very great so far this season. Toronto Raptors, in fact, in the Eastern Conference, they are also not doing very well. In fact, they are second to the bottom, talking about Toronto Raptors. So for them to get a win over Atlanta Hawks, for me, it was more like a surprise, but it is what it is, and that is the NBA for you.
Well, there was no thunder in Oklahoma last night or in early hours of this morning because the Mavericks from Dallas got all the major points, 121 points against 115 scored by the Thunder side from Oklahoma.
I think it's not a great one for Oklahoma City Thunder. They failed to thunder once again, especially where they are having a very fine form so far this season. They've been doing very great in their last 6 game or thereabouts. I think they've won 5. So for me, heading into that game, I expected them to continue to get their groove on. But then, coming up against Dallas Mavericks, who is not also doing very bad in the Western Conference, it was more like a very cagey game. Oklahoma City Thunder sitting first in the Western Conference. Then you're having Dallas Mavericks seated in the 7th or 6th position as well. So it was more like a game of attack from all front, because I actually watched the clip of that very game. But then it is what it is, and I believe that Oklahoma City Thunder can pick up broken pieces from here in their next game.
Oklahoma City Thunders, Orlando Magic, and of course Atlanta Hawks all lost at home, and the Milwaukee Bucks was very wary of that, and they decided to win their home fixture, the first win out of the 4 games, and we saw them, up against Miami Heat, 125 points as compared to the Heat scoring 96. Miami Heat, do I say play cool there?
Yeah, not a great one for Miami Heat. They failed to hit their peak, allowing Milwaukee Bucks to get the better of them. Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference, they've been very great as well. In fact, they are seated in the 4th position in the Eastern Conference, telling you that they are no pushover as well. They've been very great so far this season, and if they continue, I think they are going to have a very good season.
The Nuggets from Denver showed class. They beat their counterpart from Sacramento by 132 to 123 points. Sacramento didn't display a king spirit, if you ask me.
At all. Most of their key players didn't come to the party, in that very one. Their coach at some points herself was very furious in that very game because they failed to take their chances, especially when they're on the front leader as well. The attack was so porous that, when you expected them to get all 3 points, they had about 4 or 5 opportunities, especially in the first half of the game, to take all those 3-pointers that could have been able to help them amass more points, but then their players wasn't just it on a very good day like that. That is why their coach was very, very furious shortly after that game. But then again, against a very good team, talking about the Denver Nuggets, who is seated 4th on the log, it wasn't an easy game for them, but then they had the opportunity to have taken a victory, but they failed to.
Well, the Warriors from the Golden State showed indeed that they were Warriors, because they took on the Bulls from Chicago 131 points to 126 points. That was a good one. The Bulls didn't find it funny out there at the Golden State.
Yes, of course, when you are coming up against Warriors, that is what you should expect. You should expect that worry, and trouble for you. It wasn't just a great day for them at all. But Warriors, they were Warriors indeed, because they did everything right. I had a pep talk from the coach, telling them to go for the killer. Whenever they have the advantage, you keep shouting, keep screaming, go for the killer, boy. So I think it was an impressive game for them.
Impressive, no doubt about it. The Warriors taking home the Bulls by 136 points to 106 points. Let's now look at what happened in the Los Angeles. First, the LA Clippers what was expected of them at home, because they took off their opponents, the Wizards from Washington, by 103 points as compared to 96 scored by the Wizards from Washington.
Great one for LA Clippers. I think they've been great so far this season as well, though not the way we had expected them to start, but then coming up against Washington Wizards, which for me are not doing pretty well so far this season. I think it's great for them to get all points and continue to see if they can be able to fight for a very respectable finish so far this season in the NBA.
What the Clippers did at home was possible to be done as well by the Lakers from the same Los Angeles, because they took out their opponents, the Celtics from Boston, 117 points as compared to 96 scored by the Bolton side.
Very surprising result as well, because Bolton as well, they've been very great in the Eastern Conference. In fact, after Cleveland Cavaliers, who is topping the Eastern Conference, Bolton Celtic as well is seated in 2nd position. So they've been on a very impressive start so far this season. But it is what it is. They lost concentration at some point of the game. They failed to do the needful. The attack was very weak. Most of their key players, notable names out there, didn't come to the party, even though 1 or 2 of them scored as much as 26-pointers, some 30-pointers, but then it wasn't good enough.
Well, let's look at the biggest news right now in the NBA or in basketball in the United States of America. The All-Stars selection list is out for both the Western and the Eastern Conference, and one man continued to make the record. No doubt about it. You should know who I'm talking about. LeBron James from LA Lakers is now 21-time All-Star starter in the NBA. No one is that close. I think maybe Abdul Karim Jabbar has been selected 19 times, and now we have the man who extended it last season, now even extended it further to 21 All-Star selection for LeBron James for his side, LA Lakers. This man you see there is 40 years of age, oldest playing player in the NBA.
Yet he's still playing more like as though it is still on his youthful age, because he has not faded away. He cannot rack up points and points after games and games. So for me, I think he's made a name for himself. He created so many records. He's breaking so many records as well, and set some new record for himself. I mean, you can't take it away from the man talking about LeBron, who has done a lot, for the game, and has been able to ink his name in the annal of history in the NBA. I think it is one man that will continue to celebrate even after he has, said goodbye to the game. I tell you, he's been very great. In
the Western Conference, we've just told you how LeBron James has been selected into the All-Stars team. We have Stephen Curry in there as well. Stephen Curry as part of the All-Stars for the Western Conference. Kevin Durant is there as well. We have Nikolai Jokic. Yes, you remember him very well from Denver Nuggets. Is in that Western Conference lineup. Quite a lot of big names there for then just in the Western Conference. Then in the Eastern Conference, Mike, you look like Jason Tatum, no doubt, on that list. I can see his name on the list. Then there's Gianni Antetokounmpo, Nigerian Greek, is in that Eastern Conference lineup. Then Donovan Mitchell is there as well. If you're full of basketball, these are good names. You will ask me any day, anytime.
For sure, Donovan Mitchell, Gianni Antetokounmpo, these are names. Jason Tatum, these are names that, if you're NBA follower, you certainly know that they fully deserve to be there because of what they've done for the game. Not just about the name, but their prowess, what they bring to the table when it matters most. I think for me, no doubt, this name truly deserve to be there.
Gianni Antetokounmpo, while we have LeBron James being selected 21 times, and Gianni, Nigerian Greek, is there at the 9th time for calling at the All-Stars list. Clevin, I must say, wish him the very best at the 2025 All-Stars sections. Meanwhile, now we have to go to football and talk about football on the local scene here. Imba haven't crashed out of the CAF Confederations Cup. Had to return to Premier League football action here in Nigeria, and they went straight to Kano. And from Egypt to Kano, it wasn't just a very good trip for them, because they lost by 2-0 in the match played yesterday. 2 goals coming from Abba Adam ensured that they returned to Abba without any points.
Disappointing one for Imba. After they were knocked out of the CAF Confederations Cup, I thought maybe they were going to vent that anger against their opponent, talking about Kano Pillar, in one of their outstanding games. But then, quite unfortunate that they couldn't get all 3 points, and not a good one. In fact, their fans would have been very happy. But one of the major highlights in that very game was the mammoth crowd, that we saw in that very game. I mean, over there in North, expect football enthusiasts to come out in their number. That's it for me. More like a win-win situation for the Nigerian Premier Football League. The crowd that turned out in that very match was such a massive one.
Well, now from a local scene, let's quickly go to the Africa CAF. Maybe we'll just go straight to Europe, because we're running out of time. In the Europa League, we saw the English teams acquit themselves well, because Spurs beat Hoffenheim from Germany 3-2 in a Europa League fixture. We saw me helping out in that victory. Then across to Manchester United beat their opponent by 2-1, with the last goal, the winning goal, coming in 3 minutes of added time. You have thought that Rangers would have been taken by Manchester easily, but haven't gone ahead in the early part of the second half. Rangers came back to equalize with 2 minutes to end of the match, but they couldn't hold on to added time, because 3 minutes after scoring that equalizer, hoping that they can pull a point away in Manchester, it was a completely different idea for the captain of the side, Bruno Fernandes, who scored the second goal and ensured that they had maximum points at home.
I think pity Rangers, because they had 1 or 2 mistakes out. In fact, the first goal that they considered was a cause of an error from the goalkeeper, who tried to punch the ball away, but then rather he punched it inside his own net. I thought maybe after equalizing at that dead minute, they were going to share the spoil, but quite unfortunate for them. And they continue to tell you that Manchester United is not just Manchester United. They played disjointed football yesterday. Rangers had clearly better opportunities to have won the game.
They may have been disjointed, but they had all the 3 points on the night, and that will be it for this edition of Sports Talk. We'll definitely be back at 6 p.m. Nigerian time when we'll bring you a roundup of all the matches that were played in Europa League last night, and of course, bring you some of the fixtures coming up later tonight across Italy,